Hi there, my name is Will. Welcome to photographyquestions.com. Today I'm going to spend 5 minutes talking to you about the Effects tab under the Develop section of Adobe Lightroom 5. So here we're working with post-crop vignetting and with grain, adding grain to your image. Now vignetting can be done a couple of different ways, as with a lot of things in Lightroom. You can do it under lens corrections or even by adding a radial filter up here. If you're looking at removing vignetting from your image, that's probably better done under lens corrections, which I've touched on in a previous video. So under post-crop vignetting we have three different styles: highlight priority, color priority, and paint overlay. Now highlight and color priority tend to deal more with the exposure around the edges of your image, and paint overlay is simply, as it sounds, adding a solid color over your image. So within these particular options we have different sliders here. So amount to begin with, that is the amount of vignette, either darker or lighter, that you're adding to your image. I'm going to move this feather slider down here just so we can see what that does. Now your feather obviously is the hardness of the edge of your vignette, and that just helps us to see these other ones a bit clearer. Midpoint is the point from the middle of your image to the outside or to the edge of your vignette there, so the more we move that in and out, the smaller or larger it gets. And roundness is pretty self-explanatory. We can go from a solid circle all the way to an oval and moving out toward the edge of your image. Generally speaking, a vignette is, more toward the edge of your image of an oval or a round shape like that. And we'll just add a bit of a feather in there just to smooth that out. Now the next one down is your highlight slider here, and it's kind of a highlight recovery slider. So what I'll do is do a nice solid vignette here, just so we can see which areas are being affected. So this area up here in the sky obviously is severely being affected, and so is this area down here on the footpath. So the more we move this highlight slider up, the more those areas will be recovered within that vignette. And that's the same for color priority. I don't find too much of a difference between these two. Highlight priority is supposed to be a little bit better at recovering those highlights, so I tend to use that one. This obviously is a black and white image, but with a color image they're virtually the same as well. And moving on to paint overlay, that's got all the same sliders except for the highlight slider. So this basically, you can't recover highlights, you're just working with a solid color overlay in the image. So I'll just reset that so we can see the next one, which is grain. Now grain is different to noise within your image. I'll just mention that straight away. When you want to correct noise within your image, you want to go to the Detail tab here, which I have touched on in a different video. With grain, we're adding grain, or what looks like grain, to the image to simulate the old film look that you'd get from using film. So here we also have three sliders. We've got amount. This is obviously the amount of grain you're adding. As you slide this up, you'll start to see that coming in. And we've got the size of the grain. So here you're increasing the size, and roughness, so how rough that looks. With these three sliders you want to be careful, because the more you do it, the less detail you'll see. So the more, say for the size for example, the more I increase that size, the more detail we lose. And conversely, if I increase the roughness, we start to get a little bit of that back. It's sort of a balancing act to see what looks best for your image. So there's before and there's after. If you're looking at printing your image, you're going to want to probably do some test prints with this. Your final output, you'll be generally resampling your image, sampling it up or sampling it down, depending on what you're doing, and that will also have an effect on this grain as well. So it's a good idea to do some test printing with that, with a few different settings, just to see what looks best for your final output. So that's about it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just feel free to pop them beneath the video, or head over to photographyquestions.com and ask them there. We also have an affiliate link there in the resources page if you're looking at getting Lightroom at any stage, and that just helps us out a little if you click through there. So thanks very much, and stay tuned for the next video. See ya.